Going to do a video to try to show the best way I've found to map out photos to carve. Going to use Photoshop and Aspire, and I'm going to pull up the file. Been wanting to carve this file, and it's got so many colors in it it can't map out and look right without doing a lithograph. So the first thing I'm going to do is use this quick selection tool and start mapping out parts of the image. I'm going to cut them into their own layers. Can hold down the Alt key to remove the extras, and hold down the Shift key to add back to it. So once I have all my layers broken apart, it's going to make it easier to mold those certain pieces of the image. I'm going to switch the mode over to grayscale. And then I'm going to jump over here to this project where I already have everything broken apart. So in this image, I've separated the bow, the face, the hair. I'm going to pull out everything that I'm not working with. And I'm going to start zooming in. And I find painting with basically inverted gradients to be a lot easier than trying to start with a lithograph and fill in all the deep holes from the dark spots in the image. So you're going to make a photo negative look by remember how I got here. Click on Image, Adjustments, Invert. And it's going to make it have that photo negative look to it. And I find the photo negative easier on faces. So the quick rundown is going to be take your image, and I kind of look over it, and you can see where the parts of the face raise and where they lower. And as a whole image, you can adjust the different layers of this, how they'll be raised or lowered. So you know that it's going to bring the lights to the top, and it's going to cut down deeper for the dark spots. So whenever I isolate the bow, I can change how light the bow is by my brightness and contrast. And now my bow is going to ride higher in the carve than the face will. So I don't want to mess up what I've been working on, so I'm going to pull these back out of here. And just going back to the face. So over here in my image, I've got big poofy baby cheeks. And they're even, but if you look at the shadowing on here by the nose, it's going to create a warped looking nose that's crushed in and really deep where that dark spot is. So when I come into Photoshop, I'm going to use the dodge tool and the burn tool and the smudge tool. So dodge tool is going to make it lighter, burn tool will make it darker. Make sure you have the right layer selected. And then you just start lightening and darkening parts that you know are going to be higher and lower. So my highest part here is going to be the nose. But if you look at the shadowing on it, it's uneven. So whenever it cuts, it's going to take this, these cheekbones right here are lighter than the nose. So it's going to try to push those up higher. So I'm going to lighten up the nose, especially the tip of the nose, because I know that's going to be the highest point of the image. Then I'm going to smudge it just to make it nice and smooth and even. And as I complete each part, each different layer, I'm going to save it as a JPEG. And I've worked on the bow, so I'm going to go ahead and do the bow as well. Okay, so now I have two layers that have been exported. And while they're in here together, I have basically have brushed out gradients and used the brightness contrast to make sure the bow layer is brighter than the face layer. So whenever it goes into Aspire, it's going to bring the bow to the top and push the face back a little bit. So first I'm going to bring the face onto the screen. They came from the same image in Photoshop, so the sizes will match up. So I'm just going to hit center. So once I have these images in here, first going to try to switch the layers. Okay, we'll start with the bow. And I'm going to go over here to create the component from the selected or imported bitmap. I already have it selected on the other tab here, so I'm going to click these eagles. There's my bow. Let's see if I can separate these. Now I'll select my face, click on the eagle, so I kind of find this to be a much easier starting point than trying to just pull in an image. Seems like whenever I do that, it just really gets warped where the eyes are and where all the facial features are. So at this point I would switch over to sculpting tool. And this is weird in Aspire. I easily screw it up 1,000 times. I want to have the image overlaying on the 3D model. And both of these are the models that were produced, not the images. So I'm going to go select my image. Make sure it's got the dots that pop up so you know that it's selected. Come over to the model tab. Make sure that the matching level is selected. If not, hit shift and then you can click it. Or control, use control. And then once the image is selected and the level is selected, click on the pencil. And when you do this, it's going to have this overlay image opacity in here. So now you can rock this back and forth and see how your shadows are lining up. So I think this is a much better starting point than I usually get whenever I try to just drag an image onto it. I'll show you what I mean here. So I'm going to take the same face file that I made in Photoshop and drag it on there. And I'm going to select it and then hit the button that's basically going to do lights to the top, darks to the back, and make a lithopane. sorry, this is a bad comparison. I'm going to make a new one. I just copied the same file that I was working with, so it's already been touched up. So I'm going to go back to the original image. And from the original, we're going to hit the button. So this is how I've been trying to do it, is just drag the image in and create the component from the import. And when I do that, I start getting things like the crushed in forehead where the shadow is, crushed in nose. So it gets difficult to fill in all these gaps and then add some shape to the face. So I think it's a lot easier to start off in Photoshop and just use the gradients. So by doing that, I don't have to go pull the big indentation out of the forehead. So that's for the first image. And for the second, make sure you hit keep, save your changes. And the bow is added. So I think my face shape is off to a better start here. So now I'll start zooming in on pieces and then raising parts of the face up. So I'll start with the nose. Make sure you do individual clicks. If you start dragging, it'll smear. And just kind of roughly start pulling pieces of the face up. So when you look at the picture, the eyebrows, the bones are going to stick out further, the eyes are going to go in. Eye sockets need to come up. Okay, so once I kind of get a general cushion added, jump over to the smooth tool, bump the strength up pretty high. And that'll kind of knock out the larger humps. Follow the bones. Alright, going to hit the nose, so I'm going to turn the strength down some. Alright, so the nose comes up to a point right here, but the shadowing of it has it leaning back. So it's making the nostrils want to stick out. Want to remove some of the nostrils and then add right over the top. Just build it up thick. And smooth. Okay, I still have an indention here in the face. Stay out of the eyes. Got pretty high strength on this. Click, don't drag. Back to smooth. Okay, for the eyes, just going to start by smoothing the eyes out so you can see where the socket is. Go heavy. Try not to mess up your outline on the socket. Going for the smoothed over alien look. Depth seems okay. If it's raised up too high, can remove some of it. and smooth it back out. Now I'm going to go back to the deposit. Look at the eye position. I'm going to bump the eye position up. Once I got some material on there, smooth it back out. And smooth out here under the eye. A little crease in there. We also have depth around the eye. I want to remove full strength. Just on the inside of the outline. I'm going to do a few laps in there. And smooth over it. Smooth the little crease behind the eyelashes. Just watch your pixel colors blending together. And that's pretty much the basics. But I find this a whole lot easier to get a face shape as opposed to having warped and crushed in pieces of the face where big shadow lines are already existing. So I think it's easier to go to black and white and work those out with the gradients and the burn and dodge tool than it is to try to import it and then start filling it in with the deposits and then smudging it out and removing it. So that's it.